Hi, hello, and welcome. Welcome to another episode of Marty's Minute Meditations. You know, if you enjoy Marty's Minute Meditations, please check out Marty's Patreon page at patreon.com/Marty's Minute Meditations. You could also click the link in the description. I feel like that's a lot easier than just typing it out, you know? If you're a new listener, thanks for joining us. Thanks for hopping on the ship. You know, pull up a chair, grab a pillow, a cushion of some sort, something to sit on. It's great to have you aboard, right? The more people that this ship has, the much better it will sail across these torrential seas, right? This ocean, this vast ocean in front of us, I like to call life, is filled with questions. The more people we have on the ship, the better answers we'll have for those questions. But we have to ask them first, right? Folks, we have to ask them first. We can't assume we know the answers to questions that haven't been asked. We have to go over the ocean. We have to traverse this aqua terrain, right? So new listeners, thank you for coming aboard so that you can add to this conversation. To you old listeners, thanks for coming back. You know, your spot missed you. It missed your spirit and your energy, and it's just happy that you're here once again. You know, this ship, it needs its veterans too. It needs the people who know what it's already been through. You have a conversation in your head that's already growing and building, right? Talk to the new people. Hey, hi, my name is, maybe Shanda or something like that. Hi, nice to meet you, right? Oh, it's such a pleasure. Where do you come from? You know, where's your background? What you thinking about? What are you curious about? What are the questions you have in life? I'm not interested to hear about your certainties, right? Your certainties aren't my certainties, right? And don't try to make them my certainties, right? Those are your certainties. Don't assume, I want to hear your certainties. Because maybe you're not so certain about it. And what if I'm not certain about it? But that's the way this ship rolls. That's the way this ship is on these torrential waters. So if you're somebody that doesn't know and isn't afraid to not know, then we're just happy to have you aboard. If you think you do know, I'm happy to have you aboard too. Maybe I can get you into a place where you don't know. Because knowing is a lot scarier than not knowing. Wait, no. Not knowing is a lot scarier than knowing. But not knowing is more exciting than knowing. It's more invigorating than knowing. Because when you know things, you think you figured it out. Like, this is safe. I get it, right? I know what this is. I know what this is. Doesn't really matter to me because I know, right? Then people come up to you and they're like, well, maybe you don't know. No, I know, right? But not knowing is like, I don't know, maybe anything, right? But then you also don't want to hear people say some things that, not people who don't know can easily be swayed by people who do know. So don't know, but in a way that you're excited to not know, and that when they try to get you to know, the people that do know, they try to get you to know, like, just be like, yeah, but how do you know? Right? So that's the way this ship is. That's the way this boat sails, okay? Over these seas of questions, right? Trying to get back to that place of questions, right? So thanks for joining us. Now, without further ado, right? Let's begin. You know, before I started this episode today, I was knee deep in a meditation. I was really, really knee deep in it. I was doing some exploring. I was feeling around, and I got to thinking about how much your imagination has to do with a meditation, right? You really have to get in there. You really have to be open to your imagination. You know, a meditation is sort of like a daydream. Even when I was talking about this ship earlier, right? You know, we imagine the pillow, the chair, the ship on the water of I don't knows. What form does that take in your imagination? How are you daydreaming that? We have to daydream that. If you were imagining a boat, you know, any boat, it could have been a wooden boat. It could have been, a metal boat. You know, it could be a stone boat, even though that's not possible, right? Even though that's not possible because of science. It still could be a stone boat in your imagination. It carries with it a metaphor, right? It's a daydream. A daydream is a story with themes and metaphors, right? We had you do it. I was in it beforehand, right? Getting into this episode, I was emerging from the womb of a daydream, right? Into this world, to this physical world. But what is a daydream, right? If it's so necessary into getting into a meditation, right? Or a stone boat, which in real life would just plummet down into the abyss, killing its captain and its crew. Right? But in your daydream, it's floating on water, carrying us to safety, to new terrain, right? Wow. How can a stone ship do that? But it does it because it's a daydream. It's the imagination. It's a beautiful thing, daydreams. You know? Because sometimes life is hard. Sometimes life is scary. It could seem like a nightmare, even. You know? I'm sure I talked about that in some alternate timeline. I had an episode about nightmares, talking about nightmares, and how nightmares have come to our reality. I would assume it, but I don't know. I don't know if I've done that episode. Maybe I have. I don't know. Maybe in some, alternate reality I did. But right now we're talking about daydreams. Right now in this reality, in this timeline. Stick with this timeline, right? What if you're coming to this episode from a different timeline? How would you get your brain in the place of this reality? Well, you'd have to daydream. Wow, Marty. Crazy. I know. Daydreams are very powerful. They can change our body chemistry. How we imagine the world can change our chemistry and how we approach our actions. Really weird. But really beautiful daydreams. beautiful and wonderful stuff, daydreams. We used to do it all the time when we were children. Did it all the time. Daydreaming was just a part of being a child. When you're on the bus to school, you're sitting in your desk when you get to school. That girl you really like, walks in. She sits right in front of you. She sits right in front of you in class, right? Just right there. You just daydream. Just daydream about holding her hand. Simple things, Nothing too crazy. Not even a hug, just holding hands. Maybe a kiss on the cheek. Ooh, that's exciting. That's exciting. Right? Those were your daydreams. You had those nice little daydreams about a little romantic encounter as a child. Or you had daydreams about your future, right? Maybe you daydreamed about being, the first person to walk on Mars that had won a Pulitzer Prize, Nobel Peace Prize, finished in the Olympics, gold in the Olympics. Change the lives of millions of people, right? First astronaut to walk on Mars. Daydream about that. That's always possible. You bring your rewards to Mars. You build a little shelf, you put it up, and you put up your rewards. You go, there we go. This is my life. This is what I daydream of doing, right? This is maybe that's what your daydreams were. I don't know. But those were really interesting daydreams. Then what happens? You hit puberty. You start to feel all these sexual feelings, and then what are your daydreams? They're all about sex. Now you're not just daydreaming about, holding hands or getting a kiss on the cheek. You're daydreaming about, kissing with tongue and things like fellatio. Things like that. You're daydreaming about that. About the girl who sits in front of you in class. Daydreams get a little sexual, right? And then even you go on, right? And then all of a sudden they get a little weirder, a little naughtier. People start saying some things that are really questionable, right? Touching you in places in ways that normally you would think would be bad. But it's good. It's really good for that, A lot of you are going, well, consensually, Marty. And of course I mean consensually. Of course I mean that. It's not fun to do it if both people don't, or all three people, or all four people, or however many people aren't down for what's going on. It's not fun. It's not fun if not everybody's on board. It's like the boat of this show. If not everybody's on board, the boat's not that fun. If you're in the corner, scowling at me, saying, nah, right? That's sex, right? If you don't want to be a part of the boat, then nobody else wants you on board, right? And it's not in a bad way. It's a way of like, we don't want you here if you don't want to be here, right? That's everything. That's everything in life. Anyway, daydreams. Daydreams, right? They get a little weirder. Sorry. I need a transitional tone so I can transition smoothly back. So daydreams, right? Daydreams. They get a little nastier, a little naughtier, a little weirder, right? And then even as you get older, it starts to get stranger. Now there's straps, clamps, Iron Maidens, right? Maybe not Iron Maidens. Maybe there are. There's weird stuff out there with Iron Maidens. If you know about it, if you have videos, send it my way, right? Not because I'm interested in that thing. That's weird to me. Not to judge those who are into Iron Maidens sexually. I'm fully open and I accept you. You are totally welcome into the sexual circle. I just find it weird and I'm not that interested in it. But you could send me videos just because I like to research these things. I like to be aware of these things. I like to know about it, understand it, dive deep into it, right? But that doesn't mean I'm interested in it. Anyway, so another transitional tone. So anyway, daydreams. So you're daydreaming, right? But what happened to those magical daydreams of you on Mars with 3 awards that were granted to you by humanity because you were such an amazing person? And now you're up on Mars, achieving other things. What happened to those daydreams of achievement and wonder? You know, what happens when you're 30? Are you done daydreaming? Are you done thinking about the tomorrows of your life? What about when you're 40 or 50? Do you just stop? Do you just and does that mean you stop striving for things because you can't imagine them? What if you aren't motivated to do things because you can't daydream? Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot, and that's sad because what happens if you stop daydreaming? What if you lose that muscle to daydream, to imagine your life in better circumstances? To imagine the world in better circumstances. How can we bring about a more beautiful world if we can't imagine and daydream about the beauty of that full new world? World peace. Why don't we have daydreams about that? Daydreams about refugees getting homes, right? And a nice stuffed animal for the refugee children, you know? Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be a nice daydream? To imagine that a child that's been through horrible times gets a lovely, adorable stuffed animal as their friend. As their friend. Isn't that a nice daydream? But we don't have daydreams like that. We don't have daydreams like that. Why? Why don't we? Maybe it's because daydreams are about us. Maybe we're selfish with our daydreams. It's all about us. It's all about me, right? That's what my daydream is. It's all about me. No. This isn't your daydream. You go have your own daydream. Those refugee children could have their own daydreams. They could daydream of, having a nice home and, being out of warfare and danger. They can do that. They can daydream on their own. They're independent, okay? You don't need to assume that just because they're refugees, they can't daydream. They can't do other things. That's really insulting to them, actually. It's insulting to them to think that you just, I have to daydream for them because they can't do it, They can't do it. They're not privileged like I am. They have the capability to daydream too, folks. They do. Stop thinking so little of them, It's actually quite insulting to think that they can't daydream on their own. It's very insulting, and I would personally be mad if you thought I couldn't daydream just because I was of a different race from a different land and I was a refugee. Like, that would be pretty rude, right? So anyway, daydreams, right? Daydreams. Now I know you're going, Marty, you've done this for so long. You're probably so good at daydreaming. You probably know what you're doing. Yes, I do. I really understand how to daydream. But it's a little more complicated than that, guys. It's a little more complicated because we have our own relationships with daydreams and daydreaming. We have our own relationships with it. I mean, years ago, when Martin was in school, and he was, in a math class, there was one day, Martin was daydreaming about... Martin sat behind Jessica, right? And Martin had a very, very strong feelings for Jessica. Even as a 10-year-old, he had very strong feelings for Jessica. And he would, sit behind Jessica all class and just daydream about Jessica. Not sexually, right? Martin was 10. He couldn't do that. But he daydream about, maybe holding hands with Jessica. Maybe even a peck on the cheek from Jessica. And one day, Martin was just daydreaming about holding hands with Jessica. Maybe at a lake. Maybe at the park. He shared his juice box with her. And Martin, getting all lost in his daydream, getting lost in the clouds, gets noticed by Mrs. Cunningham, the teacher, the math teacher, right? And she goes, Martin, excuse me, Martin, are you in the class? And of course, Martin was. I was like, yes, of course, I'm in the class. And then she went, well, great. Then maybe you can come up and solve this problem. Maybe you can come up and do that. So Mrs. Cunningham called me up to the front of the class. Meanwhile, I have this huge daydream. And it's in my head, and I'm walking up in front of the class with this giant daydream. And everybody could see that I have a giant daydream, right? And I can't hide it. You can't hide a daydream. You can't just hide a giant daydream. Because it's there. It's there for the class to see. It's there for Mrs. Cunningham to see, right? And I go up and I try to do this problem with this giant daydream. And I can't do it because I wasn't paying attention during class because I was daydreaming about Jessica and holding hands with her. And so Mrs. Cunningham said, oh, so I guess we don't know how to do the problem, I guess we don't know how to do the problem? And I said I didn't. She goes, Martin, you really have to focus on your work and you have to focus on your future. If you take this time to daydream, you're wasting your education and your life. It's about math. Life is about math and work and getting a good job, right? None of this daydream. So put that daydream away. Put that big old daydream away. And maybe learn how to do this problem. Right? And then she went, what were you daydreaming about anyway? What was so great? What was so great about your daydream that you couldn't focus in class? How good could this daydream have been? So what was it? And of course, I didn't want to admit that I was holding hands with a girl or kissing a girl in my daydream because then I would have been made fun of, right? Maybe when you're 18, it makes sense, but when you're 10, no, you've got cooties and you're just and you're weird and you're strange and you shouldn't like girls or boys or anybody. You shouldn't like anybody that way. But Mrs. Cunningham, she just kept pressing. What was that daydream? What was it? If you have this giant daydream in front of class, maybe you should share it. Maybe it'll inspire the rest of class, Martin, to daydream what you daydreamed about. So, I said that I was daydreaming about having a horse as a friend named Todd. And that we would travel around the U.S., just me and Todd, just going from town to town, just seeing what the United States had to offer, right? Going to the Grand Canyon, Mount Rushmore, right? Just seeing all the sights with my friend Todd. And even as I was explaining this daydream, I was starting to have it. And I was getting excited about it. But then Mrs. Cunningham just interrupted. Oh, a horse friend named Todd. Wasn't that fun? And then the whole class started laughing at me, just joking around. And then from then on, everyone made jokes about it. Making fun of me because I wanted a best friend named Todd as a horse. Because Martin didn't have any friends at that time. So the fact that, he wanted a horse as a friend was pretty embarrassing. People they'd write on my desk and all over my locker, Martin loves horses, right? Hey, my dad owns a horse. Do you wanna hang out with him? To find a good friend, a best friend? People would put horse stickers all over my notebook, my desk, my locker. They'd draw horses, little dialogue bubbles. Like, hi Martin, I'm your best friend. Yeah? Even the teachers. Even all the teachers would cross me in the hall and go, brr, brr, and they'd stomp their feet like they were horses. It was very embarrassing. As a 10-year-old. To be pointed and laughed at by the faculty and people your age. It was very embarrassing. And I didn't even really like horses at that time. Jessica, well, she wouldn't talk to me. 'Cause her father was killed by a horse. That's right. A horse kicked in her father's chest, killed him instantly. So she didn't like horses. So the fact that I wanted a best friend that was a horse was just it was like being a traitor to Jessica. So she never spoke to me again. And then the teachers, reached out to my parents. And Mrs. Cunningham was talking to my parents and said, Martin spends a lot of time daydreaming. Doesn't do his work. So then, what happens when I get home? My parents are asking me questions, interrogating me. They sent me to therapy. And what's the first thing that therapist says? He goes, Martin, you could tell me anything. You could tell me anything, right? Anything you need to tell me, you go ahead. You can talk about whatever you want. And what does he ask me? So, how do you feel about horses? So what if I wanted a horse as a friend? I'm sure a lot of people wanted horses as their best friend. Why do I need to be at a therapist for that? Why was that necessary? I prefer boats now. I like boats. Boats are interesting to me. Boats as a means of travel. It's very interesting to me. So then that turned into its own daydream, right? Mrs. Cunningham was making fun of me. All the kids in my class were making fun of me. And so what happened with my daydreams? All of a sudden they turned into something bad. Where I did have a horse friend named Todd. And he came in and kicked all the other kids in the chest. And he didn't kill them. He didn't kill them. No, Marty wouldn't want that. But he hurt them. He hurt them enough where they would go, ow. Ow, Martin, why? And I'd go, you know why, because you made fun of me and I don't like that. And it hurt me. I guess that's where daydreams can take a wrong turn. But that's what I'm trying to say, right? Is like I'm no specialist at daydreams. I'm no specialist at daydreams. I was denied my daydreams as a child, right? I was denied them. Man, what happened? What happened to the daydreams? It's because we're told we have to be men. We have to live in a concrete, real world, And that's no fun. It's no fun to live in the concrete, real world. The real world is boring and sad and hard. And people don't care about your feelings in the real world. Marty knows. Marty's experienced it. Marty didn't daydream a lot after that. He held back his daydreams. And we talked about having those sexual thoughts all the time, but what do we do? What do we do when we really want to enjoy and indulge in those sexual thoughts? Men turn to porn. What does porn do? It destroys our ability to imagine those sexual things. Actually, porn stops you from having daydreams, from imagining. It's really a vicious cycle. Sometimes they're not all about sex or getting kisses on the cheek or being the first astronaut to walk on Mars with the first Nobel Peace Prize, Pulitzer, and, an Oscar, right? And People's Choice Award as well. Maybe it's not just about that. It's also about indulging in the darkness of your soul. The really scary parts of your soul. The weird ones. Where you are violent, where you're scary, where sometimes we've talked about for men being the beast. This is the beast. Living in that world of that dark daydream. That's scary. It's scary to be there. But I want to say, it's okay. It's okay to be in that place. It's okay to be in those scary daydreams. It's what the daydream is for. That's what your imagination is for. You can't go out and do those things, nor do you want to. You don't want to be... Marty didn't want to be that kind of Marty, right? He didn't want to be that guy that went and did those things. So he daydreamed about them. He used the daydream as medicine for his emotions, because Marty's an emotional guy. And all you guys out there, all you men out there, I just want to say, you're emotional guys too. It's okay to have these daydreams. The daydream is a scary place, but you have control of it. That's what's wonderful about the daydream. Nothing really happens. Nothing has to happen. I don't need a horse friend named Todd to feel full, right? I don't even need Jessica. I don't need Jessica to feel full in my life. I don't need that Nobel Peace Prize and that Pulitzer Prize to feel full. And I don't need my horse friend named Todd to come into my class and kick all of my classmates in the chest. I don't need that. I don't need that. Because I have it in my imagination. I have it in there. That's where it's taken care of. Nothing bad has to happen in this reality. In my daydream reality, those things can happen. That's truly the magic of the daydream. That's why we need to indulge in that. That's why we need to exercise that muscle. Maybe a lot less horrible things would happen in the world if people just took the time to daydream. Check in with what their ego wants. Realize that maybe it's not a good idea. Living in the imaginary world of that action and that circumstance might be great. But it actually happening, maybe in that daydream you realize, oh wow, I wouldn't want this to actually happen. Of course not. That's bad. But right now, in my little daydream room, right? This little space where I daydream. I get to enjoy this. I get to take the moment and indulge. That's where the daydreams are medicine. They're just, little medicine throughout the day. Pop in a little daydream, if you're feeling off. If you're in the middle of work, oh, you can't stand it, it's horrible. You're sitting at your office, right? You're sitting at your desk, looking at your computer. Just have a little daydream. You're on the bus. You're on the train. There's a man or a woman staring at you. It's uncomfortable. Go into a daydream. I don't want to dictate what that daydream is. You let it be what it is. Maybe you're punching that person in the face. Just don't do it in real life. The power of daydreams. It's very powerful. So open that door. Let that door swing open. For this meditation, I want to really open that door, right? What is that space of the daydream? What's it like to walk into that hallway of your mind that holds all your daydreams? Have you been there in a while? Maybe it's all dusty. There's cobwebs everywhere. You haven't been there in a while. You haven't cleaned up, right? Open that door to that hallway. There's limitless possibilities in there. Marvelous opportunities. So open that medicine cabinet. It's on the shelf. What haven't you used in a while? What do you need? So for this meditation, just take a breath in. Take a breath out. Close your eyes. As long as you're not driving or operating heavy machinery. Take that moment to breathe and enter into that space of your subconscious.